Welcome back to episode 7 of season 3 of HR as the White Swan. I'm Elliot Clark, the CEO of HRO Today, and we are talking with Judd Weisgal, the Senior Vice President for Madison Performance. Madison Performance is sponsoring the White Swan series to help give the HR community some ideas, some thoughts, some perspective on how HR can be that emissary of positive energy in the wake of the negative energy or black swan events that often impact businesses. For those of you who've been listening, we're now on season 3 of HR as the White Swan, and now we're up to episode 7. Each of the White Swan podcasts, as you know, corresponds to the beginning letters in the word White Swan. Each question does. So we're up to W, which is number 7. And, Judd, I guess the question in W is one of those things where you can go with what or why or where. We'd rather start off with, if we're talking about positive energy, wow. How do you wow your employees? All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, my friend. How do you create an effective programming platform that really gets employees not only to care about it, but really get them excited and enthusiastic? So today we're going to talk about wow, and Judd, it's your turn to wow our audience.
I'll do my best. I was looking forward to focusing on this. And, this is something we hear all the time, but we don't often do it so well, right? We don't always wow our employees. And the thing is, before we get into the platforms and the things you can do, and the thing to really remember is that wowing people starts with things that are mostly no cost. And you heard that right. It's free. And what I mean by that is this. It takes time and energy and commitment, but the things that wow your people are generally, to start out, low or no cost things. And I think I want to start there, Elliot, with the headline that we've all heard before, which is make it personal, right? And that's so simple, really, but teach managers to do the things that create a sense of personal connection. I can tell you that when you know not only your employees' names, but their significant other or their children or their pets, that stuff has an impact. Know their hobbies, ask about them, find out what matters to them and make it a point to connect on that. And when you have team calls, maybe you add in time to talk about appropriate non-work related things, such as maybe charity work or positive stories from their weekends or from their communities that they want to share. Things that make it personal, that uplift and that add value to the whole. The next part of this would be, I think, to lead with clarity as well. I've spoken about this at length over the last 2.5 seasons, but it's a great way to wow people, and it might also be one of the simplest. Clear goals and expectations, and then possibly reward and recognition for reaching them. That goes a long way to providing a sense of fulfillment and happiness. We know this. And allow people to have the impact they can have, meaning ask for the feedback on how they think they can add value, what they think might move the project or work effort forward more efficiently, more effectively. I think allowing your people to have a voice and an impact is beyond critical when it comes to wowing them, because nothing's more rewarding from a work standpoint than being heard and allowed to maximize your input, role, and efforts in some meaningful, tangible way. So you want to create opportunities for openness and dialogue and make that part of the routine, both group and individually. Then maximize the effectiveness of this all. Add tying the reward and recognition to all of the things I just spoke about by tying them to both ideas and outcomes. When you tie these things to ideas and outcomes, we see amazing results at companies that do this well. And the survey scores of their employees are typically through the roof when they're the recipients of all the things I just mentioned. A personal approach that has great clarity allows them to actively participate and have a voice and be heard and be seen and rewarded for the efforts and outcomes. So think about that pattern for a moment. You invest in the individual by learning what matters most to them. You create ways to share and allow them to bring their true selves to work. You build roads together that lead to success by involving them in their ideas, and then you reward and recognize the efforts and the outcomes. If that doesn't wow someone, nothing will. Because time and again, we see research that's showing folks are feeling unseen, unheard, unappreciated. This is what it takes to get the most out of them. But you have to cause them to feel as though every bit of what they can and want to contribute is being utilized, that it matters, and it also adds up to larger success for them, for the company. And in the meantime, that's a system for ensuring the wow factor. Now, again, I'd be remiss if I didn't suggest tying it all into reward and recognition. I think you need to use the reporting tools at your disposal to gauge the results, to socialize the successes using the tools, share the wins, show proof of concept to your upper management, and this will help in gaining their continued support for this type of wowing effort. And in the end, wowing your people will take on a whole new life, right? But it takes effort. But it's one that you can start with, low or no cost, and then evolve from there and turn in tremendous results.
Do you think that companies really, in your experience, and I know you've got decades of experience working with companies and very large companies, frankly, on the implementation and operation of their recognition programs? Madison Performance, you guys are perennially either at the top of our HRO Today Baker's Dozen customer satisfaction survey for recognition services, or in the top few. I mean, you're a very highly rated provider. Do you find that companies really think proactively when they're putting their program together about some of the things you just said, which is linking ideas and outcomes, really proactively sitting down and saying, okay, here are our goals from a culture or a vision perspective? Mission's a little more nebulous, but from the standpoint of here's our goals from a culture perspective, from a business perspective, and really put the time in to sort of consider how the outcomes of the program and the outcomes of the business are aligned? Or do they just sort of, check a box, put in a program, and not really go through that analysis between the HR staff and the executive leadership?
I think it's rare. I don't want to say it never happens, but it is rare. And it goes back to something we've spoken about in previous episodes and previous seasons, which is reward and recognition is all too often thought of as that nice to have or afterthought. And I can tell you that it doesn't get the same planning, strategy, and attention as many other projects that are perhaps equal in scope, but equal in importance as well. Think about when an organization is going to change their HRIS system. Think about all the planning, time, money, energy that goes into that. That's the type of planning, time, and energy that we need to see in any project that we want to be successful on a large scale that involves all of our employees. I don't think reward and recognition programs typically get anywhere near that style of planning, but I can say that when they do, those become the companies everyone else benchmarks against. Those become the programs everyone says, how did you do that? What did you do to make that happen? Why are your employees, for the sake of the name of this episode, wowed? Why are your results and, research, why is it coming back so strong? It's because they planned. And so to answer your question, I don't think many companies are, but I do think every company needs to.
All great points. And, it's interesting. You think about it, people sit down at nighttime or on the weekends and they'll watch sporting events or may even sponsor sporting events for the larger companies, not thinking about the fact that the quarterback as well as the linebackers get an incentive for winning a championship. Very easy, if you think about it, sort of to mentally figure out how you align the incentives and the outcomes. If you're the CEO of a company that's sponsoring a football stadium, why aren't you doing it with your employees? You're certainly entertained by watching people do it at a sporting event. I think that you made some really great points, and I think that's one we need to add to the list, which is that little bit extra step of getting the executives to really think about how to align it makes a huge difference. And that is a wow realization, we hope, for our audience. I want to thank Madison Performance for sponsoring the HR as a White Swan series, and thank Judd Weisgal, the Senior Vice President for Madison Performance, for wowing us with some wow ideas. And we're going to be back with episode 8, which of course is going to be the letter A, and we'll be addressing that in an upcoming podcast. Thank you, and we'll look forward to having you join us for episode 8 of season 3 of The White Swan. Thanks, Judd.
Thank you.
To listen to additional podcasts in the White Swan series, visit www.madisonpg.com. On their website, you can also speak to Judd Weisgal to discuss this topic or to speak to him about your rewards and recognition program.